I try to do football here, and football is a living organism. It's constantly shifting and changing, and so you have to constantly check the trends, check what you believe against the information, the film, and then see where the game is heading. It's I talk about leverage all the time, but as the NFL defenses and offenses morph to match each other with personnel and philosophies, schemes, play calling, you have to see how the NFL's heading, because if you're going against the tide of the leverage more often than not, you're not going to win. So I put my ADD brain to rack up a bunch of real key statistics over a 6-year period: 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. I had to check. So I'm going to show you the NFL trend line and what it does to teams in the top 10 win totals, and what it does to the bottom 10 teams, how it affects them, how it drives them. And there's a very interesting thing I want to show you. There is a polarity clearly coming to the forefront. Something I've been talking about. I remember in 2021, I was screaming at the three amigo OCs, run the damn ball. And so I've understood the run game is critical. A funny thing, I saw a popular podcaster kind of do the same thing, run the damn football. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, within the running of the game, there's a lot of nuance, but there is a big debate against the real brains of the game, the value of the rush attempts, not necessarily the yards as much. There seems to be a higher correlation to the benefit that a team in an offense gets by the rush attempt numbers. Obviously, you want the production there. So I'm going to show you over a 5-year period what this league has moved from fumble to something different. And I'm going to show you through a series of stats, analytics, how the rush attempts is affecting teams. And vicariously, you could say, the offense. I could do more studies. I'm going to take this study I'm doing here and expand it out into other areas. So it's not definitive, but I think what I'm going to show you here is extraordinarily clear. And no, somehow I'm getting labeled a Tuanon guy. It has nothing to do with meaning Tua would be a superstar if you had more rush totals. But clearly, it has effect. And if you are a lesser quarterback, like Tua, there's going to be more effect on you. But that's not the primary focus I want you to keep your eyes on. I want you to keep your eyes on the bigger picture, the macro ideas, the more important things, McDaniel's philosophy, his play calling, and then obviously Greer with the build. I've talked about how this league is moving to a more pass-balanced offense, and this will show you a ton, and I'm going to show you Miami integrated into this. So that's going to be the deal. I'll get into it right here because I don't want to go on too long because it's a little dense, but I'm going to make it pretty quick because I got the graphics. So here's my first image. See here, rush attempts cycle shift. You can see all on the left, the years 20 to 25. Then the next one over, not boxed, is top 10 team rush attempts. It'll show the average rush attempts of the top 10 teams. Then top 10 teams rush attempts with their winning records attached. Then bottom 10 rushing attempts with their losing record attached. And then Miami's rushing attempts rank. And I'm going to put it together in a graphic that's going to show you through a graph how these correlate. So look, from 20 to 25, rush attempts have been generally the same for the top 10 rushing teams. You've got a high of 31.3, a low of 29.6. It averages out to about 30 over these 10-year period. It's not really the key, but it shows you what the top 10 rushing teams are rushing the ball per game. But the interesting part is the top 10 teams with rush attempts and their winning record over this 6-year period. So 20, 6.5. One team had an 8-8 record. So you're talking 60% of the top 10 rushing teams had a winning percentage. So it gave you a lean towards running the football, the attempts, and having a winning record. Then 21, it bolstered up to 8 wins. That was 80%. Then it dropped back down to a 220 level of 6.5. Then it perturbated. Notice the perturbation, 6.5, 8, 6.5, and then it goes back to 8 and 23. But notice in 24, 8 teams again with high rush, top 10 rushing attempts had a winning record. And 2 of those teams that didn't were 8 and 9. They were getting close to having a winning record. So it shows how the attempts are bolstering teams in their consistency and getting them to win more. But 25, and it's early, but 9 of the top 10 rush attempt teams have a winning record. Now we'll contrast that to the bottom 10 rush attempts. Go back to 2020, 5.5. So it was a little bit over 50%. That, you know, you'd have a winning record or a losing record. You tend to have more of a losing record if you rushed less. Then it dropped, bottomed out to 4, and then it went to 4 again in 22. And that was the key year for the Dolphins, I think. I think 2 of his injuries right there really hurt our chances at 22. But then you see in 23, it went to 5. And then in 24, it ballooned to 8. So if you had a bottom 10 rush attempts, 8 of those teams lost, and 1 of those teams had a winning record, but one was only 9 and 8. So it pulled you down. But also you can see it ballooning. If you look back to 24, 8 of the top 10 teams had winning records. And so this rushing attempt is clearly gaining momentum. Look at 25 already. 8 of the top 10 bottom rushing teams have a losing record. So when you see this, you're seeing the NFL is a fumble pass happy league. You know, you had to run a kind of football. It got up, down, and then it starts going up, 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 and up. As teams saw the cycle, adapted the cycle, and saw the success or failure of adapting or rejecting that cycle. Now back to Miami. Look at the Dolphins. Their best rushing attempts was in 2020 at 16th. And that was Gailey. I've talked about how he used those rushing attempts to bolster the team. So we went, 10 and 6 that year? Then we came back in 21. We had a 9 and 8 record, 9 and 7 record. 17th, it was about the same. 22, though, it went to 31st. But clearly you saw that our new look, the Waddle Hill thing, and the league itself hadn't adjusted, so it really didn't play a big deal. We had a winning record, went to the postseason. And then 23, it got better at 19th, and then 19th again in 24, and now 32 this year. And so the 22, it wasn't as big of an effect, but we had our best guys on the field with Connor and Hunt and Tehran. Then in 23, we lost those guys at different periods. They weren't mostly in there. You saw midway through the season, we had problems as teams adjusted to our outside run game. We made the playoffs, but it was herky-jerky. And then last year we came back and we were atrocious. We ran the ball decently, but it wasn't enough to get into that higher echelon to really give us consistency. And we had a losing record. Now this year we fell back to even worse than 22, but the cycle is shifting so hard, we're shifting so hard down that you're seeing this polarity and you're seeing the leverage not on our team. Now, when you run the football in many attempts, there's a whole lot of stuff it does for your offense. But what else it does is time of possession and rests your defense. It's a team-wide bonus. but it also helps you just on your offense, and it also helps the offensive coordinator, and it also helps the quarterback. But you look at this, and I'll show you it again with another graph here, and don't pay attention to the orange. Look at the green. The green is top 10 win totals with their win totals of top 10 rush teams. And then bottom 10 teams with losing totals. And you can see, okay, it's separate. And then it drops in 22. The league was pretty pass happy in that league. But then in 23, you can see the shift. You see the blue line just jump to the top. The green line jumped to the top in 23, leveled off to 24, both of them. And now you're seeing an extension in an early purview in 25 of top 10 rushing teams with win totals. And it's still staying high with the least top 10 rush totals and having a losing record. And then you add in the orange graph and you see Miami, they were high up at the top. They had a 10, 6, 9, and 8. But then the league shifted, and part of that was the Dolphins and McDaniel. It dropped to the bottom, but we had success. It jumps back up, but not to where it used to be, and not really able to take advantage of that asset in 23. 24, it leveled off, stayed in the same spot. But the NFL cycle was shifting so high that even though it was sort of comparable to 23, it still didn't bring the advantage, the leverage you want. So far, it's early in 25, but we're at the bottom, and look how far away from the indicator, the blue indicator of least rushing teams and losing records, and the green line of top 10 rushing attempts and winning records. And so it's pretty clear. I can do a lot more stuff, but the NFL shifted its defenses to match the fumble pass happy league. It herky-jerkied, but more and more teams started adopting it. We hit the right point in 22 with what we had, but that's when it started being a negative. The fumble really started to die in 23. All the pass numbers are going down. Why? Because it's not as conducive to just throw the football. You've got to have balance. You've got to have the rush attempts. And if not, the leverage will push you into a losing record. Or if you're doing it the right way, it's going to help lift you to a winning record. But by 25, we're hot to trot. Did you see the Detroit Lions ran two backs, a tight end behind a quarterback, and that look hadn't been seen since 1936 in the NFL. We could see the big fullbacks coming back. We could see this. It could change next year, but more than likely cycles last for 4, 5, 6 years. So we could be in a period over the next 4 to 6 years, or maybe a little more, where your teams are leaning into the run game, leaning into the physicality, getting more rush attempts to keep balance, to give more studies on the defense, and to keep their defense rested. And the teams that don't do that will struggle from game to game. Offenses will struggle, and defenses will grow tired as the season progresses. And all this soup is why you're starting to see the teams that run the football a lot have a better winning record, and the teams that don't have more of a losing record, because it is a team sport. And running the football a number of times burns the clock off, gives you time of possession. And if you're running it that much and you don't have a garbage quarterback, then you are resting your defense, and they're not having to play the numbers game of chasing points. And so I think it's a pretty clear indication that Grier, he might have been on the right track in 22, but he set himself up for short-term success and didn't see that underneath the league, there was a move towards something different. And that's why in 23, along with the injuries, that this offense and team started to struggle. And why we continue, just not all of it, Tua is there, McDaniel's there, all the stuff is there, but if you're working against NFL cycle leverage, it's not a good thing. You want leverage. The game of football is about leverage. So I think it's pretty clear. I think the league is moving to something different. We're really behind the eight ball. Offensive line's a mess. Offensive line drives the majority of the run game. Running backs, they help superstar, but even superstar ones need blocking. Blocking sets it all up. And I think when you saw Hunk get that big contract, teams understood you're not getting two-a-days. We want to run the football. We want to get better blocking. We can't just get guys and have them have lots of reps. We've got to bring the talent in to uplift this lack of continuity through reps in practice and to take advantage of this cycle. At least the smart GMs did. So you can extrapolate what you want from that, but I think it's pretty clear. I think we're all in kind of agreement. And again, it does not mean Tua, it would be this or that, but he certainly would be better. And if you have a lower end quarterback, like say a Daniel Jones, and you can run the football and protect, this shows clearly the Mayfields and the Goffs. You can uplift these guys to be functional quarterbacks. And some of the elites can get past it, but look at Mahomes. He's struggling under it. But if you are a very system-dependent quarterback and you got a system that's going against the NFL cycle, then you're going to have trouble. So, hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Phins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.